Oh man, check out these delicious ranch style beans. If you want to try something that's just absolutely off the hook good, oh, you just got to try this dish. It is fantastic. Well, hello. Welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode of Texas Cooking Today, we're going to be making a ranch style bean. Okay? Now, ranch style beans, what's also called charro beans. Charro is a Mexican word for cowboy beans. Ranchero beans is for ranch beans. It's all the same dish, okay? I want to show you how to make this dish perfect. How to prepare the beans so that you can soften the skin the right way and also make the bean taste wonderful. It's all in the cooking method, how it gets started, and the ingredients you use. And we're going to go over the most common ingredients used for this wonderful dish. So come over this way. We'll go over all these wonderful goodies that we have to cook with, and let's get busy making us some ranchero beans. Alright, now let's go over all of the ingredients that we have for this wonderful dish. First off, let's come right over here, is this bean. These are pinto beans, and this is the most commonly used bean for ranchero beans. And I really recommend, if you're doing this for the first time, to definitely use this. And if you're already accustomed to this dish, then this is the bean you're looking for. If you're looking to know which bean it is, it's that one right there, okay guys? Now, other things that we're going to be needing in this, we like to go in with some fresh vegetables. And that's of course some cilantro. I've got some jalapenos here, an onion, and some garlic. Now, if you're thinking that, wow, jalapeno, that's kind of hot, well, don't worry about it. We don't have a lot of jalapeno that we're going to use in this. I'm not using all of these. And we're going to be putting it into a pot that's going to be a large amount of liquid, so that's not going to really heat it up. But it is going to add a wonderful chili flavor to it that is a very important ingredient. Now, back here also, I have some pork. This is just some ham. Traditionally, this is done with ham or, shredded pork, like pork shoulder, sometimes with bacon or a ham hock. There is a lot of ways of introducing that wonderful pork flavor to this dish, so don't be afraid of experimenting with each one of them. Now, a lot of people just insist on using bacon, but it isn't an absolute, okay? I find just a good pork flavor is great, and I like this ham, so I'm going to chop it up nice and small and use it. Now, this ham's already cooked, so I don't have to really add it into the beans until a little bit later in the cooking process. That's a little different than most ranch beans that you see in most recipes you see where that pork is added early. And I'm going to show you some neat ways of doing this and the reason we're not going to add that. Also some salt. I have back here some cumin and paprika, and this is a little bit of lard. You can use some vegetable oil or shortening, whatever, to fry up the onion in, and the jalapenos also. I might put them in there also, and that's just going to help to bring out a little extra flavor from both of those for this dish. Now let's move right on to the first thing that we need to do, which is getting these things sifted through and ready to cook. Now, long before you can ever get into cooking any of these other ingredients, you have to soak off your beans. Now, there is a quick method of doing this where you parboil the bean and then cool it down, and that also helps to soften that skin as well. But the real trick in cooking beans is softening the skin, not so much in getting the meat on the inside plump and soft. It's getting that skin broken down so that you don't have all these skins that you're sifting through while you're eating. Well, so that's the trick. Now, the first thing that you do, anytime you get a bag of beans, you're always going to come in and find some that just look like, well, that doesn't belong in there. So pull out anything that you feel that might not belong there and pull that one out. You want to sift through it, looking down around the bottom edges especially. Now, there's an important reason for this. When they collect beans, no matter how careful they are about this in their processing, there's always a certain number of stones, little tiny rocks, that are mixed in with the beans. And I don't always find them, but I would say easily 90% of the time I find beans or stones in my beans. As I was preparing to wash these, I decided to take another close look, and I unearthed, sure enough, there's a stone that was right in the very bottom of it. And what I did was just start pulling them away and looking in the bottom of this very meticulously, just to double check, just to make sure. I didn't find them the first time, but sure enough, there was one in there. Like I said, about 90% of the time I find a stone in a bag of beans. And there it was. Now I have here some water. I'm just going to use it to quickly rinse these beans off. And this isn't, if you're afraid that those have any dirt or dust on them, give them a rinse like this. As a general rule, before they hit the bag and leave their packaging facility, those beans have already been lightly washed and dried, so it shouldn't be an issue. But you just never know, so I go ahead and take advantage of the moment. Now what I have done is just to pour those into a large pan like this. And you're going to need a fairly good sized pot, because not only do you have to accommodate those beans, but you're going to have to accommodate the onion, some garlic, some of the jalapeno, and also some of that pork. Plus, we're going to be putting in about 6 cups of water, which is going to fill this right up. So this is going to make a very large pot of beans, and these are going to expand dramatically. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and get some water in this. As I mentioned, I'm going to be using about 6 cups. And what I'm using here is just cold water. This is actually the pan I'm going to cook it in also. Some people like to soak beans separate from the pan they cook it in. But I want to tell you this. Make sure when you're making these beans that you cook these in the water that they soaked in, because that water has become very, very flavorful from the bean itself. This pre-soak is real important, for softening up that skin. That's the important part. Remember, like I said, the skin is the tough part to cook on this type of bean. So we have to get it taken care of first. There's a little bean skin I'm going to pull out. Now, how long do I need to give this? Some people give this overnight. I recommend giving it at least 4 hours. And so that's what I'm going to do here, is we're just going to let it sit and have plenty of time. The rest of the ingredients, I can take care of those later and prepare them at another time when it's closer to time to start boiling these. And the boil itself usually no more than 2 hours. So we're on for our wait. So I would say just kick back, relax, let your beans soak, and then whatever else you wanted to prepare, get on with that, because this is doing its thing. These beans have now been soaking for about 5 hours. Now, first thing you'll notice is the beans have already become substantially larger, much larger, and they're filling up the majority of that pot. A lot of that water is soaking in. So, that's exactly what we're looking for. They're in good condition. So what I want to do next is I'm going to start a low heat on this, and we're going to get these other vegetables ready to go down in this. This is going to be tasty. Okay, we're over here ready to take care of our vegetables. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on some gloves. And this isn't because I'm afraid of vegetables, this is because I'm going to be handling some hot peppers here. Now, if you're handling anything that is, like a jalapeno or a serrano or anything like that that's going to be a good hot pepper, then you might want to protect yourself. And this is also smart because later on, even after washing your hands, if you were to rub your face or something, suddenly your face is going to be burning because that capsaicin sticks on you very well. So what I want to do is to take some of these and reduce those to a nice fine dice. And what I'm going to do is just kind of cut them open, and I'm going to remove these cores just like so. There we go. And I'm going to wash out those seeds here in just a moment. There we are. Very simple. I want to do this to several. Now it's likely this little one is probably going to be a rather hot one. I've noticed that when they have dark colored seeds like that, sometimes they're a little warmer than usual. Now, you don't have to get all of that vein out of it, but I try to get as much as possible. I don't mind a little bit behind, but I don't like having all of that with the seeds and everything inside of it. So, what I try to do is just reduce it as much as possible. And I want to do one more, and that's because I like a lot of jalapeno in mine. If you don't like quite that much chili, or you're afraid of the heat, then you might want to just try a can of green chilies, those little cans. It'll give you a very good flavor of chilies, but without much heat. Alright. Now I want to take a moment and get rid of the rest of these seeds, and then we'll get started slicing on all of them. Now those have been rinsed quickly. If you want next, let's go ahead and make some narrow strips. And what I'm looking for here is nothing as wide as, nothing that's going to be as wide as a 1/4 of an inch. I'm looking for more like an 1/8 of an inch cut. Now, remember when cutting on these things, keep those fingers rotated under. Grab a hold of the blade and grip the handle with your back fingers. And I just want to go ahead and do this to all of these. So if you would, grab a hold of yours and just keep going on them until you catch up with me. And when you do, then we'll be off and cooking again. Okay, we have that jalapeno cut up. The next thing I'm going to have to take care of is that onion. But first I want to get this into a small bowl, make it a little easier to handle. Now, if you want yours cut a little bit smaller than that, go ahead. Sometimes I like to cut mine down a little bit smaller pieces, and it just depends on my mood when I'm making the beans that day. There we go. See, wow, that was whole on one side of the onion on that outer layer. It was really thin on the other side. Now, what I want to do in order to cut these down into some small dice is I want to cut on either side of that root. Never cut that root end off. You want to cut the stem off first. Now, I have 3 parts, and I want to be able to reduce these to dice really easy. I'm going to take my knife and make a cross cut through the bottom of that, and then another one a little higher up. So, I basically have 3 parts there. And all I have to do is just make cuts. Like so. And then my cross cuts. Oops, got a couple of pieces that are going rogue on me. There we go. Isn't that easy? It's a great way to dice. Go. Make these a little bit smaller. There we go. Just slightly smaller. Back piece, they're giving me trouble. Now that center section, want to handle it the same way. We're going to make some of those cross cuts first. And then I want to make those lengthwise cuts through it. See, that root will hold most of it together. Some of it's going to blaze off on its own. There we have it, and all that's left is just that root. So, my onion is ready. My jalapeno is ready. All I have to do is just get started cooking these up. So let's go over to the stove, and we're going to get this on some heat. Now, my pan with beans, I have a high heat underneath it, and I need to go ahead and get my vegetables, so I want to get a high heat on this front pan. Now, as soon as this comes up in temperature, what I want to do is be putting this lard down in it. Yummy. And the onions, our jalapeno. Now on this garlic here, we don't want to be in too much of a rush to get this garlic in, because if I put it in this pan and toast it, that's really going to change up the flavor of it. So I'm going to be putting my garlic in the beans, and I'm not going to do a lot of processing. I'm just going to break that pot open and toss it on in there. My pan has been coming up in temperature now, and I can go ahead and put this down in here. Now, if you don't want to use the lard, go ahead and use like some vegetable oil. I wanted to do this more like it might be done in Mexico. That way we get that definitely south of the border flavor, as well as that Texas flavor going on, which is very common here as well. Go. This is where I want to start controlling the heat on this. So I'm going to reduce it down to about a medium high. I don't want it to get too wild on me. Those beans, what I'm trying to do there is to bring them up in temperature as quick as absolutely possible. So I've got a high heat on that, and I'm going to move it over to the other side of the stove. There we go. That way I have a little more room on this burner. Now, just bringing out flavor, a small amount of salt in this, doesn't take much, no more than maybe a quarter of a teaspoon. There we go. The onions have not been in there long, but I start them first just to get the heat working up through them to soften them. And remember, right here, we're not looking to cook the onion and this pepper so much as we are just looking to develop extra flavor on it. This isn't really so necessary. You could go straight into the beans with this very mixture and, leaving the lard completely out of it. That would work fine. Now, as that's heating, on those garlic pods, let's go ahead and remove that paper on those. Give those things just a little bit of a squeeze and twist. And after you get used to doing it that way, you'll learn that paper can pop right off of it. Which is nice if you're looking to have a little less mess with these things. I'm starting to get some steaming action. A little foam building on the top. That's a good thing. Now, by bringing it up to a boil like this again, it's working more on the skin than it is on the center of it. So the center of it's going to be cooked down by us slow cooking it. But that skin, we kind of have to shock it, and that first shock of that boiling water is really going to do the trick on that. I'm starting to see just a little bit of edge browning. Just beginning. A little bit. Now, looks like everything is right on track here. So what I want to do, now that I have my beans to a good boil, I'm going to put all of that right down into them. And as I mentioned before, that step isn't actually totally 100% necessary. And if you'll notice, we didn't start by putting ham in there and cooking it up, or bacon in there and cooking it up. And there's good reason behind this. Both of those have a lot of salt in them. Alright? Now, salt when it comes to beans, acid when it comes to beans is your enemy. So this right here, you don't want to have anywhere around this until after about at least an hour worth of simmering. Okay? Now what I want to do is go ahead and prepare my garlic, and I'm just going to cut off those scab ends, and I'm going to do nothing more than just gently give each of these a crush to break them open, and I'm going to toss them right down into my pot. Alright, now those are going to break apart and just basically fall into pieces. That's the reason I don't even bother mincing them, because when you're going to be simmering something for 2 hours and garlic is in it, the garlic is just simply going to come apart on you. So don't worry about it, just toss the whole pot in there just like that. Now, pull this to my front burner. Bring all that back to a boil, and then I'm going to reduce it to a simmer and cover it, and I'm going to let this sit here and simmer for a while. Now if I like, I can go ahead and put in some of my spices, not the salt, remember. However, we had cumin out, and I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of that cumin. There we go. And I'm also going to put in the same amount of that paprika. And I'm going to give that a bit of a stir. Now all of this has begun. Also, something else that is done occasionally, and it's done both in Mexico and in Texas, if you like bay leaf, go ahead and put a bay leaf in this. That works nicely. So, all I have to do is be patient. In 1 hour, I'm then going to put my ham in there. And if you're going to be using bacon, I'm going to recommend that you do that the same way. And for good reason, like I said, it's that salt content. We don't want the salt getting in there any time early. If we do, what's going to happen is acid and salt have a tendency to make beans tough. We don't want to do that to our beans. We want them to be nice and tender and fluffy and soft. So let's keep the salt and the acids away from it, other than what all we've just put in there, okay? Now, let's lower to a low heat, and then let that guy just sit and simmer. We'll check this in 1 hour. Now you might want to make sure that you stir this occasionally, about every 20 minutes. We have now arrived at the 1 hour point. Actually, it's been about 55 minutes. And what I have going on here is a beautiful, beautiful pan of beans. Now, it's time for us to go ahead and put in that pork. And what I have here is about 1 cup of diced pork. In this case, it's ham. You could use bacon also, like I said. You might want to use about half as much when it comes to bacon. And that bacon can either be pre-cooked, or you can just cut it up into small pieces and put it in there raw, and it's going to cook up just fine in this. Although I think pre-cooking it's going to give you a more robust flavor from the bacon, a better flavor. But it does work both ways. So now all I have to do is just let this keep simmering. And again, I'm not going to be adding any salt, not quite yet, because later on when I taste this, that ham is going to have released all of its sodium, and there might be enough salt in it at that point. I doubt it, but you know, it's the beginning of it, and so I don't want to salt it now because then it could be over salted later. Now we're just going to let that finish cooking. It's going to be probably about another 30 minutes to an hour. And it never hurts to pull out a little bit, taste it, see what the texture is like on the bean and the flavors. It's delicious. It has a wonderful sweet taste. That onion and the pepper are both coming out really good in it. Our spices are not overwhelming. They're just spot on perfect. Well, our beans are about 1.5 hours in, and it is time for us to go ahead and take care of our cilantro and get it in there. Now I'm going to reset my timer. Go. And what I want to do is just a chop, and it doesn't have to be, you know, a real fine chiffonade or anything. I want to chop up the equivalent of about 1/2 of a cup, or slightly more, maybe 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup. And yes, I'm going ahead and getting some of that stem in there also, and that's not going to hurt a thing, because the way I was cutting that. There we go. Now we can just take that and put it right over there in our pot. We'll stir that in. I have a little bit of fat surfacing, both from that lard as well as from the pork that was in there. And if you want to skim that off of the edges, that's fine. But what I want to do is go ahead and get that cilantro in there, and I'm going to let it cook for about another 15 minutes. That way the flavor of that cilantro will permeate through it, and then our charro beans are ready to eat. Now, you do want to take some time to adjust your seasoning. Now what I'm going to do here is just to pull out a little of this, put it in a bowl, and that way I can kind of let it cool just a little bit and get a gauge for exactly what these beans are like. And if I need to adjust the seasoning, add more salt, I can do that. They're very good. They are a little bit flat. I'm going to add in about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Stir that in. Give it about 5 or 6 minutes, and then I'm going to taste it again. Well, as you can see, this isn't a hard dish to do. It takes a little time, but it isn't difficult. And it's so rewarding. The flavors are just so strong and robust. This is something that you should try if you haven't yet. That extra salt is just perfect in it. Brings out the flavor of the beans, the ham. The spices don't jump at you. They're subtle. It's really the flavor of the bean that comes through the most. Nothing like Ranchero Beans, Charro Beans, Ranch Beans, Cowboy Beans, whatever you want to call them. Remember, they're just plain delicious. This is a great accompaniment to many of the dishes that you're going to see on Texas Cooking Today. And I would like to thank you very much. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today. And to my subscribers, thank you very, very much. And you folks have a good day. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today, the show where you can get great recipes and the best techniques are taught. Please subscribe to Texas Cooking Today, where you will always find something hot and ready to eat.